Imagine, buried for centuries under the Egyptian sand, a temple so pristine it's been called the Sistine Chapel of the ancient world, and on its ceiling, a map of the heavens that has sparked fascination, fierce debate, and some pretty wild theories for over 200 years. We're talking about the Dendera Zodiac. Let's dive into the incredible story of this artifact.
That's really the central puzzle, isn't it? Is this thing just a fancy calendar? Is it a sacred religious document? Or could it be evidence of some kind of lost advanced knowledge? To even begin to find an answer, we've got to unpack its story, where it came from, the complex ideas baked into it, and the absolutely dramatic journey it took from a temple ceiling to a museum wall. Now, here's a twist. To understand this Egyptian masterpiece, our story doesn't start on the Nile. It starts in Paris. Yep. If you want to see the original Dendera Zodiac today, you have to go to the Louvre. This massive sandstone slab, a literal chunk of an ancient temple ceiling, is now one of its star attractions. So how in the world did a piece of a sacred building end up there? To really get what the Zodiac is all about, we have to go back to its source, the magnificent Temple of Hathor at Dendera. This is where the map was meant to be seen. It wasn't just a museum piece, it was a fundamental part of a huge architectural statement about the very nature of the universe itself. So picture this. We're in Upper Egypt, on the west bank of the Nile. Dendera wasn't just some random spot. This place was a major religious hub for thousands of years. It had immense theological weight, and it was all dedicated to Hathor, the powerful goddess of the sky, love, joy, all the good stuff. These images are just incredible. They really show you how recently we've been able to see this ancient world. For a huge part of its history, the temple was almost completely swallowed by the desert. It wasn't until the 1800s that it was properly cleared, revealing the stunning, nearly perfect structure we can visit today. Okay, something really crucial to get is that while the temple you see today was mostly built when Greek and Roman rulers were in charge, we're talking Cleopatra's dad, the Emperor Tiberius, it's standing on deeply sacred ground. Archaeologists have found bits and pieces of much older temples on this exact spot, stretching back for ages. It's like this profound layering of history, one on top of the other. The temple itself was designed to be a mini universe. The floors, that was the earth. The giant columns were like plants reaching for the sky. And the ceiling, well, the ceiling was the heavens. It was covered in these incredible astronomical scenes, most famously the sky goddess Nut, with her body arched over everything, swallowing the sun at night and giving birth to it again at dawn. It's this beautiful, perpetual cycle of cosmic renewal. All right, with all that context, let's zoom right in on the Zodiac itself. This was not just a pretty decoration. It was a sophisticated tool, a complex text that masterfully weaves together science, religion, and art to map out the divine order of the heavens. So, to read this star map, first we need to get our heads around the idea of decans. Think of them as the ancient Egyptian way of telling time after dark. Instead of a clock, they just looked up. When certain groups of stars rose on the horizon, that marked another hour passing. It was basically a celestial clock, and it was fundamental to their entire ritual calendar. The Dendera Zodiac is basically a cultural crossroads carved in stone. It's amazing. You've got ancient Egyptian constellations like a hippopotamus right next to the 12 zodiac signs we know. Leo the lion, Taurus the bull, which actually came from Mesopotamia. And the whole thing is framed with Greek geometric and astronomical principles. It's this stunning mashup that just shows you how connected the ancient world really was. And the Zodiac wasn't just hanging out by itself. It was part of this much bigger system of what you might call visual poetry. By this late period in Egyptian history, the priests had developed this incredibly complex system of hieroglyphs. Text and image were basically the same thing, designed to be read on all these different levels, with puns and visual gags creating these dense layers of meaning that only the initiated priests would have a clue how to decode. This brings us to a really vital distinction. For the ancient Egyptians, this map wasn't about personal horoscopes. Their astronomy was all about maintaining ma'at, that divine concept of cosmic order and balance. The stars told them when to perform the right rituals to make sure the sun would rise, the Nile would flood, and the universe wouldn't fall apart. It was a theological duty, not personal fortune-telling. So if this thing was so sacred and literally built into the temple ceiling, how did it end up in a museum thousands of miles away? Well, the story is a dramatic and frankly, deeply controversial chapter in the history of archaeology and European colonialism.
After Napoleon's expedition brought back drawings of the zodiac, it kicked off this craze in Europe called Egyptomania. In 1821, a team led by a French antiquarian used chisels, saws, and, reportedly, even gunpowder to crudely hack this massive stone disc out of the temple's ceiling. Its arrival in Paris was a sensation, but it's still a painful symbol of that era's looting. Today, a modern plaster cast hangs in its place back at Dendera.
Because it's so complex and so beautiful, the temple has inspired more than just academic study. Over the years, it's become a focal point for all kinds of alternative theories about the ancient world, attracting people who are looking for evidence of some kind of forgotten knowledge. And maybe the most famous of these theories is the Dendera light. Deep in one of the temple's underground crypts, there's a set of really unique reliefs that some people have interpreted as showing an ancient, sophisticated form of electrical lighting. So what's the real story here?
This slide really lays out the two competing views perfectly. The fringe theory looks at it and sees a bulb, a filament, a cable, and an insulator, basically a modern light. But mainstream Egyptology reads the image using the well-known language of Egyptian symbols: a snake, which represents the god Harsomtis, coming out of a lotus blossom, a classic symbol of creation, all held up by a jed pillar, the ancient symbol of stability. So let's just look at what the actual evidence supports. First, the hieroglyphs right next to the image describe it as a mythological scene. They're not a technical blueprint, they are religious text. Second, in over 200 years of digging, archaeologists have found zero physical proof. No glass shards, no filaments, no sockets, anywhere in Egypt. And finally, Occam's razor. We know the Egyptians had effective ways to light dark rooms using polished mirrors and salt-treated torches that made very little soot.
In the end, whether you see a light bulb or a creation myth, the Dendera complex is just profound. The zodiac is so much more than a source of controversy. It's a testament to a culture's deep, deep understanding of the cosmos, a masterpiece that blends knowledge from across the ancient world, and a powerful object that really reflects our own enduring fascination with Egypt's mysteries.
And that kind of leaves us with one last question to chew on. The desire to see super advanced technology in these ancient reliefs is powerful. But why? Does it come from a genuine respect for how ingenious ancient people were? Or maybe, does it come from a place where we find it hard to believe that people from so long ago could achieve such greatness without tools that look like ours? It's definitely something worth thinking about.